Today I'm going to talk to you about practices that are tried and true. I've used them for many years now. They're ways that I navigate through stress, anxiety, annoyance, agitation. So if you're up for it, let's sit down and have a little chat. You know, all we have to do is Google or YouTube to find limitless, abundant amounts of tools, practices that we can use when we're stressed or anxious or agitated. Firstly, though, what we need to do is learn the techniques, see what works for us, practice them so that they can kick in when we need them most. How can yoga help us deal with stress? Well, there is an excellent article by Vanika Chawla, who's an MD and a Stanford psychiatrist. It's titled How Yoga Affects the Brain and Body to Reduce Stress. And it states that yoga helps regulate the autonomic nervous system and the HPA axis, both of which are stress response systems. We all know that living in the modern world can be highly stressful, and what the research is showing is that a regular practice of yoga can really help us to navigate through those stress responses that we all have. When we are practicing yoga, not only is our physical body affected, but the parts of our brain that are associated with processing emotions are affected as well. So our mind and our prefrontal cortex is harnessed within our yoga practice, helping us navigate how we feel. Yoga in the studies that Chawla cites, it's been shown that there are several changes in the physiological markers implicated in stress, including cortisol, HRV, which is heart rate variability, as well as the release of neurotransmitters such as GABA. So I'm going to link that study and that article in the description box below for you to have a look at. When we are navigating our way through a stressful time, we are in habitual modes that are conditioned, and they're modes of reactivity. So let's begin to add some things to our tool belt here. Number one is awareness. Building awareness simply comes from becoming aware. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, there is a very powerful phrase. It goes like this: Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And basically it translates in yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. So when we still the fluctuations of the mind, we have a moment of great awareness, of great observing. When we can quiet the stories in our mind, we get to become the watcher of everything that's happening purely as it is. In order to cultivate that awareness, we need to practice. Each of us has habitual patterning, and in yoga speak, we talk about these as samskaras. So they are our habitual ways that we respond and react. We have all had a lifetime of conditioning, maybe lifetimes if you're that way inclined. So a lot of the ways that we are habitual are really, really helpful, and some not so much. So let's just take a moment here to kind of cultivate a sense of awareness, a sense of observing. So just sitting exactly where you are, laying your palms just on your knees or in your lap, and begin to sense your body, the shape of your body, and the air in the room or outside in the world, wherever you are. And notice how thoughts come and thoughts go, and you are watching the thoughts, watching the body, watching me watching you, and just for a moment sense into the background of all of that. So the part of you that is sitting in the background, not judging, purely being, it's peaceful there. It's peaceful there, and we need to cultivate that if we are to navigate our way through stress, anxiety, agitation. So number one is building awareness around things that trigger us, things that agitate us, things that are downright annoying. And maybe even kind of feeling into where those responses came from and where they're emanating from within us. Noticing where in our body we're holding stress. This is why yoga practice, movement practice, qigong practice can be so helpful, because it can help provide feedback to us about where we're holding the tension and the tightness. I think that's exactly why I was drawn to yoga. I was so stressed out, and sometimes I still get stressed out, and yoga helps me navigate that, helps me to notice that, and helps me to release that. Okay, so let's move on to number two, our friendship with our breath, or pranayama. In yoga speak, prana is life force and yam or yama is restraint. So controlling or restraining the breath. And in my yoga practice, in my yoga teacher training, we were taught that the breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. If we add that awareness piece of the puzzle here, things start to magically fit together. So become the observer of the breath. I can think of many, many times where I have been stressed, agitated, annoyed, and my breathing got really quite shallow. When we begin to play and practice with the breath, we can definitely begin to tap into patterning that we might have come in with or we might have developed over time. I like to tell stories about my real life here, and this story goes back many years ago now, when my husband and I were first married, and when we would have a contentious issue to discuss, he was quite good at being forthright, at expressing himself, and I was quiet. I would go quiet and I would literally hold my breath and try to become invisible. Things began to change quite a lot when I developed the capacity to deepen my breath and really feel into the breath moving through me, that life force energy, that prana. So I was controlling the breath quite consciously in order to tap into my body and harness my words, harness my clarity, harness my awareness. So as we build awareness around what triggers our tensions, our tightnesses, might be driving through traffic and somebody cuts us off and straight away there's a reaction, we can deepen the breath, calm the body's physiology, and then decide whether or not we want to respond to that, or do we need to respond to that, or do we need to just keep ourselves safe and driving in our own lane. I think I shared this quote in another video, but it's so appropriate in so many ways. Viktor Frankl, my dear, Viktor Frankl, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. You know, we get to choose whether or not we're going to react from those habitual patterns or whether we're going to respond in brand new ways, brand new healthy ways. All right, so number 3 is movement. Move your asana. So even while we're sitting here chatting about this, movement is medicine. Shake. Just shake your hands, shake your arms, jump up and down, move your head, move your tongue. Movement can take so many different modalities. You know, it could be swimming, it could be jumping on your trampoline, it could be yoga, could be strength training, HIIT training, all the trainings, lots of different ways. But even just shaking can help. I think I did a video on shaking. Shaking is super great at releasing tightness and tension. It's mobilizing, it's moving the prana that we've breathed in. So we've created awareness. We've created awareness around the situation. We've created awareness around the breath. And then we let things settle and we just feel how the movement, whatever movement it's been, I can feel the difference in my body after just a few moments of shaking. So moving our asana, moving our seat, moving our body can create unbelievable amounts of capacity. So if you feel like you're stagnating a little, bounce up and down. That's all we need to do. Shake the part of the body, rub the part of the body that feels a bit tight, it feels a bit tense. Just give it a rub. Ha, beautiful. Okay, let's all take a deep breath in through both nostrils and exhale out of our mouths. Fantastic. So this brings me to number 4, and this is something that I feel has assisted me in so many different ways. It's journaling, Swadyaya, self-study. I write what is coming through me. I stream write. I enjoy morning pages. Sometimes I'll write a page, sometimes I'll write 3, as popularized by Julia Cameron in her wonderful book, The Artist's Way, which I must do a video on because that book is so readable. I've read it about 6 times. I find journaling helpful because it gets what is going on in here, rolling around in here, it gets it out to where I can see it. And I have often used Byron Katie's 4 questions if I'm struggling with something. And so I wanted to kind of bring this into the Swadyaya journaling part of this because I feel like these 4 questions are really, really helpful when we've got something going around in our heads that we're trying to sort out. The first question she asks is it true? Is it true? Is it true that I saw a purple and pink spotted elephant? Well, no, I didn't. And so we can end that right there. The second question that Byron Katie asks is, can you absolutely know that it's true? Number 3, how do you react when you believe this thought? How do you react when you believe this thought? And number four, who would you be without this thought? Externalizing our thoughts, when we put them onto paper, can help the mind to stop clinging and stop ruminating. It can get it out of the head and into a place where we can analyze it with a sense of awareness. with a sense of spaciousness. And this brings me to number 5. Number 5 is a mindfulness practice called R.A.I.N. And I love this practice so much. R.A.I.N was developed by a meditation teacher named Michelle McDonald, and I came across this technique when it was taught to me by Tara Brach, or Tara Brach, depending on how you speak. I love Tara's version because the ending really resonates with me, and so that's the one I'm going to share here. So R is for recognize. So taking a moment, and it's kind of bringing together a lot of what we've discussed previously, recognizing and becoming aware without judgment, just recognizing what's going on. A is for allow. So let it be. Allow whatever is coming through to be. This is the investigate part of the equation, where we look into how we've reacted before and maybe make a different decision about how we're going to respond now. And the N is where I believe self-compassion really hits in, and that is to nurture ourselves through all of the experiences, nurturing and nourishing ourselves as a pathway rather than giving ourselves a hard time. So really tapping into a practice of self-compassion, cutting ourselves some slack, remembering that we are human. And, we might even take a moment here to place our hand on our heart. And I have another book here. One of my favourite books of all time. This is a bit dog-eared and very, I've had it for I don't know how long. You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And, just taking a moment, hand on heart, and telling ourselves, I love you. I really and truly love you, and I want to care for you. And maybe that sounds corny, but this is what the world needs. It needs us to love ourselves enough, to trust ourselves enough, to nourish ourselves enough that we can respond well out there in the wider world. The yoga practice, it's practice. It is practice for what we do out there in the world. It translates as living in the world in union with all that is. And so after the rain, the clouds clear. And in the heat of the moment, it can be really hard to remember that. But once we start to put the tools in the tool belt and we recognize that we've got these amazing gifts that we can use, life is no longer just happening to us. We are stepping into capacity because we've educated ourselves and we've loved ourselves enough that we know we're okay and that we're doing the best we can at any given moment. Stress, agitation, it'll always be there. It's part and parcel of human existence. But the practices that we do, they are where the rubber meets the road. They are life force giving practices where we learn how to navigate our conditioned ways of being, and we get the opportunity to respond to life in wonderful and life-enriching new ways, which filters out into our relationships, it filters out into our stories, and it creates a promise of something more conscious in the future. Through our practices, we can begin to remember that we are that wide open, all-seeing, all-knowing benevolence. We can rest back into that and become part of the sky, the wide open smile of the sky, as Tara Brach says. So, thank you for staying with me this far. I hope that that was of assistance to you, and I'd really love it if you would share your own practices. What do you do when you're agitated, when you're stressed, when you're annoyed? What do you do to help yourself through those times? And how do you steer back onto the conscious pathway, your pathway to enlightenment? Anyway, thanks for being here. Thank you for sharing this time with me, because I know time is precious, and I wish you well. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, and maybe share it amongst your loved ones and your friends. That helps to grow this small channel, and it shares the love out into the wider world. Thank you so much for being here. Bye for now. Namaste.